The first ray of sunlight gently touched the red soil of the small town of Eagle Springs, Montana, when Joseph Joe Bennett slowly opened his eyes. At 74 years old, he still maintained the old habit of waking up before the roosters crow, as if his body was tuned to the silent rhythm of the nature that had surrounded him for more than 5 decades. The smell of fresh coffee, mixed with the aroma of vegetation moistened by dew, announced that another day was beginning in that piece of land that was part of his soul. Sitting on the wooden porch which creaked softly under his weight, he observed with eyes full of pride the immensity of the ranch that stretched before him. "Good morning, old girl," he murmured to the land, as he had done every morning for years. This place wasn't just property. It was the living memory of his family, built over 3 generations. Every inch of that ground carried stories, challenges overcome, and moments of joy. The sound of the kitchen door opening broke the morning silence. Martha, his wife of 48 years of marriage, appeared carrying 2 steaming cups. "Coffee's hot, Joe. Did you sleep well?" she asked, sitting in the chair next to his. "As always, Martha. This land gives me peace," he replied, accepting the cup with gratitude. "And Anna Claire, is she up yet?" "Up early, just like her grandpa. She's out in the pastures with that tablet of hers, fiddling with the equipment again." Joe smiled. Anna Claire was his eldest granddaughter, who had returned from the city after completing her degree in agronomy. The girl had brought with her not only academic knowledge, but also a deep love for that piece of land that was part of her history. He felt proud to see how dedicated she was to the ranch, bringing modern technology without losing respect for traditions. In the distance, the sound of hooves hitting the ground caught his attention. It was Maverick, the impressive white horse that had mysteriously appeared in the region years ago. Nobody knew where he had come from. Wild, untamable, but incredibly gentle with the family. He never allowed himself to be ridden, but he also never strayed completely away. "Look at our guardian over there," Martha pointed, following her husband's gaze. "That horse has something special, Martha. Sometimes I feel like he understands everything that happens around here." Maverick walked majestically through the pasture, his white coat shining under the rising sun. But that morning something seemed different. The animal was restless, neighing more than usual and walking in circles at the top of the hill, looking fixedly at the valley. "He's acting strange today," Martha observed, furrowing her brow. Joe preferred to keep his concern to himself. Animals were always more sensitive to changes that humans couldn't always perceive. He had learned this from his father and grandfather, men who had lived from the land and for the land. At that moment, Anna Claire appeared running along the trail that led to the pastures, her brown hair tied in a ponytail disheveled from running. At 26, she had the determination of her generation mixed with the wisdom inherited from her elders. "Grandpa, I need to talk to you," she shouted from a distance, waving the tablet in the air. "Calm down, girl. Come here. What's the rush?" Joe responded, rising from his chair. Anna Claire climbed the porch steps, breathless, her eyes shining with a mixture of excitement and concern. "Grandpa, I discovered something interesting in the monitoring data from the spring. The flow is gradually decreasing, but there's no logical explanation for it. The rainfall is normal, there are no signs of drought." "It could be natural, honey. Nature has its cycles," Martha tried to reassure her. "No, Grandma, this isn't natural. I went to check the sensors and someone had moved them. There are footprints around, big boots that don't belong to anyone here." Joe's expression darkened. In more than 50 years of caring for that land, he had learned to trust his instincts. And at that moment, both Maverick and Anna Claire were trying to tell him something important. "Show me that data," he asked, extending his hand for the tablet. While Anna Claire explained the graphs and measurements, Joe felt a growing weight in his chest. Mysterious changes in the water, strange footprints, restless animals. All of this together was no coincidence. Something was happening on his land, and he needed to figure out what before it was too late. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We'll continue. The sun was already high when an imported pickup truck slowly climbed the dirt road to the ranch house. The vehicle, impeccably clean and shiny, contrasted with the simplicity of the rural environment. Joe Bennett, who was organizing some documents on the porch, raised his eyes upon hearing the rumble of the engine. "Rare visitor in these parts," Martha commented, drying her hands on her apron while watching through the kitchen window. A tall, well-dressed man with an impeccable appearance and a rehearsed smile stepped out of the vehicle. He wore a light-colored suit that seemed too expensive for a visit to the countryside, and dress shoes that were soon covered with the characteristic red dust of the region. He walked with the confidence of someone used to getting what he wanted. "Good. Morning. You must be the famous Joe Bennett," said the man, extending his hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm Frank Anderson, businessman in the tourism industry. May I steal a few minutes of your time?" Joe rose slowly, observing the visitor with the natural distrust of someone who knew people well. He shook the offered hand firmly, but maintained a neutral expression. "Welcome, Mr. Anderson. How can I help you?" "Actually, I'm the one who's here to help you," Frank replied, his smile widening. "I represent a group of investors interested in developing sustainable tourism projects in the region. This ranch has incredible potential." Anna Claire, who had been organizing the samples she collected that morning in the yard, approached discreetly. When she heard unfamiliar voices, something in that man's tone made her uncomfortable. "Tourism?" asked Joe, crossing his arms. "This is a working ranch, Mr. Anderson. We work with cattle and agriculture." "Exactly. And that's why it would be perfect." Frank opened a folder he was carrying, taking out some colorful papers. "Imagine an eco-resort, trails for tourists, a restaurant with local cuisine. It would create jobs for the entire region." Martha appeared on the porch, carrying a tray with coffee. Always hospitable, she offered it to the visitor, who politely accepted but barely touched the cup. "That's very kind of you, but our land is not for sale," Joe said firmly. "This ranch has belonged to our family for 3 generations. We have no interest in changes." Frank's smile faltered for a moment, but quickly recovered. "Mr. Bennett, you haven't even heard my offer. We're talking about a very generous amount. Enough for the whole family to live comfortably without having to worry about the hard work of the field." "Hard work?" Anna Claire couldn't contain herself. "Excuse me for butting in, but this land is our life, not a burden. There's no amount of money that can pay for our history here." Frank turned his eyes to the young woman, quickly analyzing her. He had dismissed her presence, but now realized she could be a complication in his plans. "You must be the granddaughter with the agronomy degree, right? You must understand sustainable development then. Our project would bring progress to all of Eagle Springs." "True sustainable development doesn't drive families from their ancestral lands," Anna Claire retorted, her eyes shining with indignation. The tension in the air was palpable. Joe realized the conversation was taking an unpleasant turn and decided to end it. "Mr. Anderson, I appreciate your visit, but as I said, our land is not for sale. If there's nothing else—" Frank put the papers back in his folder with abrupt movements, his mask of cordiality finally falling. "Mr. Bennett, development is inevitable. Eagle Springs will grow with or without the cooperation of the residents. It would be much more advantageous for everyone if there was a friendly partnership." "Are you threatening my family?" Joe's voice became deeper, and for the first time, Frank seemed to realize he had underestimated the old rancher. "It's not a threat, it's reality. Times are changing, and those who don't adapt get left behind." At that moment, a strong neigh echoed through the air. Maverick appeared at the top of the hill, as if he had sensed the tension. The white horse descended toward the house, his eyes fixed on the stranger. Frank looked at the animal with discomfort. There was something in that horse's posture that made him nervous. "Well, I think I've made my interest clear. I'll leave my card. When you change your mind, and you will, call me." He tossed the card on the porch table and walked toward his pickup, but stopped before getting into the vehicle. "Oh, and Mr. Bennett, it might be interesting for you to talk with other ranchers in the region. You might find that not all of them were as resistant as you are." With those meaningful words, Frank departed, leaving a cloud of dust and a heavy atmosphere in the air. Anna Claire picked up the card and examined it. Frank Anderson, Tourism and Real Estate Development. A shiver ran down her spine. "Grandpa, this man won't give up easily," she murmured, watching the pickup drive away. Joe nodded gravely, his eyes following Maverick, who remained alert in the middle of the yard, like a vigilant guardian. 3 days had passed since Frank Anderson's visit, and the tranquility of the ranch seemed to have been replaced by a silent tension. Anna Claire noticed that Maverick rarely strayed from the house now, circling the surroundings like a sentinel on constant watch. It was Wednesday night when the phone rang in the kitchen. Martha, who was washing the dinner dishes, dried her hands before answering. "Hello, Clearwater Ranch, good evening." From the other end of the line came a distorted, unrecognizable voice that made her freeze. It would be better to accept the offer while it's still friendly. "You don't know who you're messing with." The call ended abruptly. Martha stood still, the phone still in her hand, her heart racing. Joe, who was reading a newspaper in the living room, noticed the change in his wife's expression. "What is it?" "Martha, who was it?" "I don't know, someone talking about accepting an offer." The voice was strange, like it was disguised. Anna Claire, who was updating data on her laptop, immediately raised her head. "This can't be a coincidence. First the footprints on the sensors, now anonymous calls. This Frank isn't joking around." "Easy, honey. It could just be to scare us." Joe tried to reassure her, but his own voice carried concern. The next morning, John, their closest neighbor, appeared at the ranch with a somber expression. A man of few words, he and Joe had maintained a friendship for decades. "Joe, I need to tell you something," he said, taking off his hat and running his hand through his graying hair. "Last night my dogs barked all night. When I went to check, I found the back fence cut and tire tracks in the dirt." "Cut how, John?" "With wire cutters, Joe. Clean cut, professional. It wasn't vandals. And there's more. Fields from the south. Pasture contacted me yesterday. Said some guy named Frank offered him a good amount for his land." Anna Claire exchanged a significant look with her grandfather. The pressure was spreading throughout the region. "And what did Fields say?" she asked. "That he wouldn't sell, of course. But the man insisted, said it would be better to accept now because later the offer might not be so generous." That afternoon, a small blue van drove up the ranch road. A woman in her 40s stepped out, with curly hair tied in a messy bun, carrying a bag full of papers and a camera. "Good afternoon, I'm Lucy Adams, journalist from the Rural Truth Portal. May I speak with Mr. Joseph Bennett?" Joe, who was fixing a fence near the house, approached with curiosity. There was something in that woman's posture that conveyed seriousness and determination. "That's me. How can I help you, Ms. Adams?" "Mr. Bennett, I'm investigating reports of irregular real estate pressure in the region. I heard you received a visit from Frank Anderson." "How did you know that?" Anna Claire appeared behind her grandfather, intrigued. "Because it's not the first time he's done this. I've been following similar cases in 5 different towns. Always the same pattern. Polite initial proposal, then pressure, intimidation, and in the end the families end up selling for prices well below the real value." Lucy opened her bag and took out a thick folder. "Look at this. The Sullivan family in Clearwater, pressured for 6 months until they sold. The Olson family in Pine Ridge, fence cut, animals released, anonymous calls until they accepted the offer. The Parker family in Redwood Valley, still resisting, but suffering. The same intimidation that you're starting to face." "My God," Martha murmured, who had joined the group. "And the authorities, the police don't do anything?" "That's the problem. Frank has strong political connections. He knows important people, has expensive lawyers. He always manages to make it seem like the pressures are coincidences, that the problems are natural." Anna Claire flipped through the documents, her eyes widening with each page. "But what's his real interest? It can't really be tourism." Lucy smiled bitterly. "That's the question I've been trying to answer for months. The tourism project is just a facade. There's something else behind it, something that justifies all this pressure and all these expenses." "You think it has to do with the sensors that were moved?" asked Anna Claire. "Sensors? What kind of sensors?" Anna Claire explained about monitoring the spring and the mysterious alterations. Lucy noted everything in her notebook, her eyes shining with professional interest. "This could be the missing piece of the puzzle. Could you show me this data?" While Anna Claire went to get her laptop, Maverick appeared in the yard, neighing. Softly, the horse approached the group but maintained a respectful distance from Lucy, as if assessing whether she represented a threat or not. "What, a beautiful horse," the journalist commented. "Is he yours?" "He is and he isn't," Joe replied with a smile. "Maverick arrived here years ago, nobody knows from where. He never left, never let us ride him, but he also never caused problems. It's as if he were our guardian." Lucy observed the animal with curiosity. There was something in the horse's posture that impressed her. "May I photograph him? Sometimes images draw more attention than words in a report." "Sure, but he doesn't like strangers much. Let's see if he'll accept." To everyone's surprise, Maverick not only allowed the photos, but seemed to pose naturally. His intelligent eyes stared at the camera as if he understood the importance of that moment. "Amazing," Lucy murmured. "It's as if he knows he's helping you." When Anna Claire returned with the data, the sun was already beginning to set. Lucy examined the information carefully, making notes and asking technical details. These changes in flow aren't natural at all, and the displacement of the sensors confirms that someone is interested in hiding or manipulating information about the water, she concluded. "But why?" asked Martha. "I don't know yet, but I'll find out. Can I leave my phone number? If anything strange happens, call me immediately." As the blue van disappeared down the road, Joe felt a mixture of hope and apprehension. Finally, they had an ally, someone who could help them understand and face what was happening. But he also knew that from that moment on, the battle would become more intense. The dawn of Friday brought with it a discovery that would completely change the course of events. Anna Claire, as always, went out early to check the improvised laboratory she had set up in one of the ranch's sheds. As she approached, however, she noticed that the door was ajar. Her heart raced. She always locked the laboratory religiously, knowing the importance of the samples and equipment stored there. "Grandpa! Grandpa, come quick!" she shouted, her voice echoing across the yard. Joe Bennett, who was feeding the chickens, dropped everything and ran toward his granddaughter. Martha, hearing the shouts, hurried over as well. "What happened, girl?" "Look at this," said Anna Claire, pushing the door completely open. The spectacle that unfolded before them was devastating. Overturned benches, broken sample vials on the floor, damaged measuring equipment, papers with important notes scattered everywhere, some torn, others trampled. "Dear Lord," murmured Martha, placing her hand on her chest. Anna Claire entered the laboratory, her eyes filled with tears of anger and frustration. Months of work had been destroyed in a single night. "They took all the samples of aquatic plants," she said, examining the empty benches, "and the water analysis data. Everything that could prove something was wrong with the spring." "This wasn't vandalism," Joe observed, surveying the destruction. "This was someone looking for something specific." At that moment, Maverick appeared at the door of the shed. The horse entered slowly, sniffing the air and observing the debris. His behavior was even more agitated than in previous days. "Maverick senses that something is very wrong," Martha commented. Anna Claire took out her phone and called Lucy Adams. "Lucy, it's Anna Claire from Clearwater Ranch. They broke into my lab last night, destroyed everything. I'm heading your way right now. Don't touch anything until I get there. I'm bringing a photographer." 40 minutes later, Lucy arrived accompanied by a young man carrying a professional camera. They documented every detail of the destruction, every torn paper, every damaged piece of equipment. "Look at the footprints," Lucy pointed out, crouching near the entrance. "Heavy boots, same pattern as those you found by the sensors." "This is Frank's work," said Anna Claire, her voice laden with certainty and indignation. "Probably, but he would never do this personally. He has people working for him." The photographer, who had been quiet until then, approached the group. "Excuse me for interrupting, but did you see this?" He pointed to a corner of the laboratory where there was a small oil stain on the floor. "This type of oil is used in drilling equipment. My father works in mining. I recognize the smell." Lucy and Anna Claire exchanged significant looks. "Drilling?" repeated Anna Claire. "What kind of drilling?" "It could be for soil analysis, mineral prospecting, or even to investigate aquifers," the photographer explained. Aquifers, murmured Lucy, her eyes shining with a new understanding. Anna Claire, you said the spring's flow is decreasing. What if it's not from natural causes? What do you mean? What if someone is diverting the water underground, or worse, what if they're contaminating the aquifer with some kind of operation? Anna Claire felt a shiver run down her spine. As an agronomist, she knew that any interference with the aquifer could have devastating consequences for the entire region. We need evidence, she said, determined. I can't redo all the analyses that were destroyed, but I can collect new samples and run different tests. No, Joe intervened firmly. It's too dangerous. These people have already shown they have no scruples. Grandpa, if they're messing with the water, it's not just our ranch. That's at risk. It's all of Eagle Springs. Lucy nodded gravely. Anna Claire is right. But she won't do this alone. I have contacts at universities, professors who can help, and we'll take all necessary precautions. That afternoon, while cleaning up the damage in the laboratory, Anna Claire received an unexpected call. It was Frank Anderson. Miss Anna Claire, I heard you had some problems at the ranch. What an unfortunate situation. How did you know what happened here? She asked, signaling for Lucy to record the conversation. News travels fast in small towns. I'm calling to offer my help. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our proposal. With all this stress, maybe you'd prefer a more peaceful life away from here. Mr. Anderson, do you really think we're that naive? Naive? I don't understand. First your visit, then the intimidation. Now the lab break-in. All coincidence. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Miss Anna Claire, you're getting involved in things you don't understand. Eagle Springs is going to develop, and that development can happen harmoniously or with complications. The choice is yours. Are you threatening me? I'm offering an opportunity, but opportunities don't last forever. The call ended, leaving Anna Claire with the phone in her hand and her heart racing. He's not even trying to hide it anymore, Lucy commented, having heard everything. That means we're getting close to something important, said Anna Claire, determination growing in her eyes, and he's desperate to stop us. Maverick, who had remained nearby throughout the afternoon, approached Anna Claire and, for the first time, allowed her to touch his muzzle. It was as if the horse was offering his silent support in the battle that was just beginning. We won't. Give up, Maverick, she murmured, gently caressing the white coat. We won't let them destroy our home. The horse neighed softly, as if agreeing with every word, and remained there, a silent guardian protecting his adoptive family against the approaching storms. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We'll continue. A week after the laboratory break-in, Lucy returned to the ranch with information that would completely change everyone's understanding of what was happening in Eagle Springs. This time, she was accompanied by Dr. Robert Miller, a geologist from Montana State University. We managed to analyze the samples you collected before the break-in, Lucy announced, placing a folder on the porch table. And what we discovered is much more serious than we imagined. Dr. Miller, a middle-aged man with thick glasses and a graying beard, adjusted his glasses before speaking. Mr. Bennett, your property is located above one of the largest deposits of rare minerals in the Rocky Mountain region. We're talking about niobium, tantalum, rare earth elements, essential components for modern technology industries. Anna Claire's eyes widened. That's why they're interested in the water. They need a lot of water for mining. Exactly, the geologist confirmed. And it also explains why they're trying to hide or manipulate the spring data. If the environmental impact were proven, they would never get a license for exploitation. Joe Bennett stood up from his chair, walking to the edge of the porch to contemplate his land with different eyes. So all that talk about tourism was just a facade, Lucy completed. Frank Anderson isn't a tourism businessman. He's the owner of a mining company registered under third-party names. We've discovered at least 12 properties he's already acquired in the region using the same method. And what happened to those families? Asked Martha, her voice laden with concern. Some moved to the city, others to neighboring states. All of them received very low values for their land. much less than they're actually worth, and now we know why. Dr. Miller opened a geological map of the region. Look at this. The properties Frank has already purchased form a corridor that passes exactly over the highest mineral concentration. All that's missing is this ranch and 2 smaller ones for him to have complete control of the area. Anna Claire traced the path on the map with her finger, her indignation growing. He's destroying entire families out of greed, and then he'll destroy the environment too. That's why we need to act quickly, said Lucy. I've already contacted the state attorney's office and environmental organizations, but we need community support. That same afternoon, Joe made a decision that surprised everyone. He asked Lucy to organize a meeting at the old chapel in town, summoning all the families in the region. If we're going to fight, we'll fight together, he declared. It's not just our land that's at risk. The meeting was scheduled for Sunday night. During the days that followed, the news spread quickly through Eagle Springs. Families who had been living isolated in their concerns for weeks discovered they weren't alone. Fields from the South Pasture was the first to seek out Joe. Joe, after I heard the truth, I went to check my spring too. It's got reduced flow, just like yours. And I found marks from heavy equipment in my South Pasture. They're already doing exploratory drilling on various properties, Anna Claire explained. Without authorization, without permits, without anything. During the week, more neighbors appeared with similar reports. Cut fences, frightened animals, anonymous calls, aggressive purchase offers. The pattern was always the same. Maverick seemed to sense the growing agitation. The white horse rarely left sight of the ranch house, always alert, always watching. Anna Claire had developed a special connection with him, and the animal now accepted her caresses and even followed some of her gestures. It's like he knows something big is about to happen, she commented to her grandmother. Animals sense. To these things before we do, honey. My father always said that. On Saturday, the eve of the meeting, Frank Anderson appeared again at the ranch. This time he wasn't alone. 2 men in suits accompanied him, along with a lawyer who introduced himself as Mr. Vincent. Mr. Bennett, said Frank, his forced cordiality more evident than ever. I heard you've been spreading unfounded rumors about our project. This is very detrimental for everyone. Rumors? Anna Claire couldn't contain herself. We have proof of what you're doing. Proof of what, miss? Of economic development? Of job creation? Mr. Vincent stepped forward, carrying a voluminous folder. We've brought the complete documentation for the tourism project, all duly approved by the town hall and the competent authorities. Lucy, who had arrived moments before, quickly examined the documents. Forged approval, she said without hesitation. This environmental agency signature is fake. I know the IA irresponsible technicians. Frank lost his composure for a moment. Who are you? We haven't been introduced. I'm Lucy Adams, journalist. And tomorrow night I'm going to present to the entire community the true intentions of your project. What meeting? The meeting where we'll tell everyone about the clandestine mining, about the illegal drilling, about the water contamination. What are you insinuating? Frank's voice became dangerously low. I'm not insinuating, I'm stating facts. The businessman looked around, noticing he was outnumbered. Joe, Anna Claire, Martha, Lucy, plus some neighbors who had arrived for the conversation. I don't know who you're messing with, he finally said. I have important contacts, expensive lawyers, influential politicians. This meeting isn't going to happen. Yes, it will, Joe replied firmly. And you can bring whoever you want. We're not afraid of the truth. Frank signaled to his companions, walking toward the cars. You'll regret this stubbornness, he shouted before leaving. Eagle Springs is going to develop whether you want it or not. As the vehicles drove away, raising dust, Maverick appeared in the yard, neighing loudly. It was as if the horse was declaring they weren't afraid of the threats. Tomorrow will be a decisive day, said Lucy, watching the dust cloud disperse on the road. Yes, agreed Anna Claire, caressing Maverick's neck. But at least now we know who we're fighting against, and that we're not alone. Sunday dawned with a sky heavy with dark clouds, as if nature itself reflected the tension that hung over Eagle Springs. The final battle was about to begin. The old chapel of Eagle Springs had never seen a crowd like this. Entire families squeezed into the wooden pews. Others stood in the aisles, and some even remained outside, craning their necks to hear through the open windows. The air was heavy with tension and expectation. Joe Bennett, wearing his best dress shirt, walked nervously across the improvised altar. Anna Claire organized the documents and evidence they would present, while Lucy tested the portable microphone they had borrowed. "I've never seen so many people gathered here," Martha commented, observing the crowd that continued to grow. "That's because everyone is experiencing firsthand what we're going through," Anna Claire replied. "It's time to speak up." At 8 o'clock sharp, Joe took the floor. His voice, normally low and measured, echoed clear and firm throughout the chapel. "Friends, neighbors, family, we all know why we're here. For weeks our lives have been turned upside down by pressures we didn't understand. Today, finally, we'll know the truth." A murmur ran through the crowd. Lucy stood up and began presenting their discoveries: the geological maps, soil analyses, connections between Frank Anderson and mining companies, the forged documents at the town hall. "This man doesn't want to develop tourism," she explained, projecting photos onto an improvised screen. "He wants to extract rare minerals from beneath our lands, and to do that, he's willing to destroy families, contaminate our water, and devastate our environment." The indignation in the chapel was palpable. Voices rose in protest. People embraced each other. Others cried upon discovering their fears were founded. It was then that the doors of the chapel burst open with a bang. Frank Anderson entered, accompanied by 2 security guards and Mr. Vincent. His posture was completely different from the forced cordiality of previous visits. His face was red with anger, his fists clenched. "What circus is this?" he shouted, interrupting Lucy. "You have no right to spread lies about my company." The silence that followed was deafening. All eyes turned to the businessman who walked down the central aisle as if he owned the place. "Mr. Anderson," Joe said calmly, "this is a private meeting. You weren't invited. I don't need an invitation to defend my reputation against slanderers." Anna Claire stood up, holding the documents. "Slanderers? We have proof of everything presented here." "Forged proof. You... People are nothing but... Frank seemed to be completely losing control. His breathing was accelerated. His hands trembled with rage. "You don't know who you're dealing with. I'll sue every single person here for defamation." "Mr. Anderson," Lucy intervened firmly, "you're being recorded. I suggest you leave before saying something that might compromise you even further." "Recorded. Recorded." Frank's explosion was sudden and violent. He advanced toward the altar, pushing people who were in his way. "Nobody is going to record me. Nobody is going to humiliate me." Fields from the south pasture tried to block his path, but Frank pushed him too. The businessman reached Joe Bennett, who remained firm in his position. This is all your fault, you stubborn old man." "Mr. Anderson, calm down. Calm down, I'll teach you to mind your own business." What happened next shocked everyone in the chapel. Frank, completely beside himself, pushed Joe Bennett forcefully. The elderly man, caught by surprise, lost his balance and fell heavily onto the wooden floor. A collective cry of horror echoed through the chapel. Anna Claire ran toward her grandfather. Martha began to cry. Several people rose indignantly. "Grandpa! Grandpa, are you okay?" Anna Claire knelt beside Joe, who was trying to get up with difficulty. "I'm fine, honey, I'm fine." Frank seemed to have come out of his trance when he realized what he had done. He looked around and saw dozens of revolted faces staring at him with disgust and indignation. He threw himself on the floor. You saw it. He threw himself down." "Everyone saw what you did, you coward," someone shouted from the crowd. "Hitting an old man. What kind of man is that?" "Call the police." The situation was completely spiraling out of control when a strong, unmistakable sound echoed from bay outside the chapel. It was Maverick's neigh, but different from any sound the horse had made before. It was a war neigh, deep and powerful. The sound of galloping hooves approached rapidly. Then, to everyone's amazement, Maverick appeared at the chapel door. The white horse, majestic and imposing, looked directly at Frank. His dark eyes shone with an intensity that made the businessman instinctively back away. Maverick entered the chapel slowly but with determination. Each step was calculated, each movement loaded with purpose. People instinctively moved aside, creating a corridor between the horse and Frank. What is this?" Frank stammered, his eyes wide with fear. Maverick positioned himself exactly between Frank and Joe Bennett, whom Anna Claire was helping to stand. The horse lowered his head, struck the floor forcefully with his hooves, raising dust and fragments of wood. The sound echoed through the chapel like thunder. Frank backed up several more steps, stumbling over his own legs. Get out of the way. It's just a horse." But Maverick didn't move. He remained there, firm as a mountain, protecting Joe Bennett. The horse stared at Frank with an intensity that seemed supernatural. "My God," someone murmured in the crowd. "It's like he understands everything." Frank tried to go around the horse, but Maverick moved, always blocking his path to Joe. With each movement of the businessman, the horse responded, maintaining himself as a living shield. "You see this?" Frank shouted to his security guards. "Do something!" But the guards, large and apparently brave men, were paralyzed before Maverick's majesty. There was something about the animal that transcended any rational explanation. "Mr. Anderson," said Joe, now standing and supported by Anna Claire, "I think you'd better leave. Maverick doesn't like people who hurt our family." As if understanding the words, Maverick took 2 steps toward Frank, who finally lost his composure completely and ran out of the chapel, followed by the security, guards and the lawyer. The crowd erupted into applause. People cried, others laughed with emotion. Anna Claire hugged Maverick, who for the first time allowed himself to be touched by people outside the family. "Thank you, my friend," Joe murmured, extending his hand to touch the horse's muzzle. "Thank you for protecting us." Maverick neighed, softly as if saying, "You're welcome," and left the chapel with the same dignity with which he had entered. That night would forever be remembered in Eagle Springs as the night when a white horse showed that sometimes protection comes from the most unexpected places. The dawn following the confrontation at the chapel brought a surprise that no one expected. Anna Claire woke up to the phone ringing insistently. It was Lucy, and her voice carried an excitement she had never shown before. "Anna Claire, you need to check social media right now." "Lucy, what time is it? Did something happen?" "Yes, it did. The video of Maverick protecting your grandfather has gone viral. Half of America has seen it." Anna Claire rushed to her computer, still, in her nightgown. What she saw on the screen left her speechless. The video that someone had filmed with their phone during the confrontation already had more than 2 million views. Comments kept appearing. "This horse has more dignity than many humans. Four-legged protector defending his family. I want to know the whole story. Where is this?" That cowardly businessman hit the old man, and the horse wouldn't let him. "Get away with it." Joe and Martha joined their granddaughter in front of the computer, not quite understanding what was happening. "Grandpa, do you realize? The entire country is talking about you and Maverick." The phone rang again. It was from a national television program wanting to interview the family. Then another and another. In 2 hours, Anna Claire had received calls from 12 different networks. "My goodness, what are we going to do?" Martha asked, frightened by all the attention. "We're going to tell our story," Joe replied with determination. "If the whole country wants to know, then we'll show what's really happening here." Lucy arrived at the ranch accompanied by a crew from the state television station. It was just the first of many that would arrive throughout the day. Maverick, as if sensing all the commotion, remained close to the house, curiously observing the unusual movement. "Mr. Bennett, how do you feel knowing that your story is being heard across the country?" asked the reporter. "I feel grateful," he replied, looking toward the horse. "Grateful that we have friends like Maverick, and now for knowing we're not alone in this fight." During the interview, Anna Claire explained about the clandestine mining, showed the forged documents, talked about the intimidation. With each word, it became clear that the story went far beyond a heroic horse. "This isn't just a case of animal protection," she explained. "It's about environmental preservation, about the right of families to remain on their ancestral lands, about fighting corruption." Around noon, spontaneous visitors began to arrive. Cars from various cities, chartered buses, even people who came by motorcycle just to meet Maverick and show support for the family. "I've never seen anything like it," Fields commented, who had come to help organize the flow of people. "It's like everyone wants to be part of this story." An elderly lady who had driven 3 hours from Billings approached Joe with tears in her eyes. "Mr. Bennett, my grandson showed me the video on his phone. I had to come here personally to thank you for not giving up. People like you give us hope." "You're the one giving us hope, Mrs. Wilson," he replied, moved. Meanwhile, Anna Claire was receiving calls from lawyers offering free help, environmental organizations wanting to support the cause, politicians promising to investigate irregularities at the town hall. "Look at this," she said, showing her phone to Lucy. "The state attorney's office wants to talk to us tomorrow, and the Environmental Protection Agency said they're opening an official investigation." "Frank must be desperate," Lucy observed. "Overnight, he went from aggressor to national villain." As if they had summoned the devil, a black van appeared on the road. Frank stepped out accompanied by more security guards than before, but his posture was completely different. He walked with his head down, avoiding looking directly at the cameras that were still filming at the site. "Mr. Bennett," he said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance, "I need to speak with you privately." "After what happened yesterday, we have nothing to discuss," Joe replied. "Please, it's important. It's about a deal." Anna Claire and Lucy approached. "What kind of deal?" Anna Claire asked, suspicious. "My company is willing to withdraw all purchase offers in the region and to pay compensation for the inconvenience caused." "Inconvenience?" Anna Claire's voice rose a notch. "You destroyed our lab, intimidated our family, assaulted my grandfather. It was a misunderstanding. I was under pressure, the investors, the targets." "There's no excuse for what you did," interrupted Joe, "but I'll hear your proposal." Frank took a deep breath. "My company will pay $50,000 to each family that was approached for sale, and another $100,000 to you for the damages caused. In exchange, you withdraw the accusations and stop this campaign on social media." Silence fell. It was a considerable amount for rural families, but everyone knew there was something wrong with the proposal. "And the mining?" Lucy asked. "Are you giving up on extracting the minerals?" Frank hesitated. "The mineral exploration is legal. We have acquired rights acquired with forged documents," Anna Claire cut in. "That was never proven." Maverick, who had remained at a distance, began to approach. His mere presence made Frank back up several steps. "Mr. Anderson," Joe said firmly, "our answer is no. We don't want your money. We want you to leave our lands and never come back." "You'll regret this. I have resources, lawyers, and we have the truth," Anna Claire replied, "and now the whole country knows it." Frank looked around, seeing the cameras, the visitors, the families united in support of the cause. He realized he had completely lost control of the situation. "This isn't over," he muttered, returning to the van. As the vehicle drove away, Fields approached Joe. "Joe, I just spoke with other ranchers in the region. Nobody's going to accept his proposal. We're all united in this." Anna Claire looked at Maverick, who was calmly observing all the movement. "You know something, Maverick? I think we've succeeded," she said, stroking the horse's neck. "Not just in saving our land, but in showing that when people unite for a just cause, they can defeat any adversary." The horse neighed softly, as if agreeing with every word. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since it all began, they felt that victory was within reach. The sunset that day tinged the sky with a special golden hue, as if nature itself was celebrating the union of all those who fought to protect it. 3 weeks after the confrontation at the chapel, Eagle Springs had transformed into a national symbol of resistance and community unity. The investigation by the state attorney's office had resulted in the cancellation of all of Frank Anderson's fraudulent licenses, and his company was being prosecuted for corruption, document forgery, and environmental damages. Anna Claire walked through the pastures early in the morning, observing how the spring's flow had returned to normal after the clandestine drilling operations were halted. Maverick accompanied her, as had become his habit in recent weeks. You know you've become famous, don't you, she said, stroking the horse's neck. There's even an Instagram page dedicated to you. It was then that she noticed something unusual. An elderly man leaning on a cane was watching them from the ranch gate. He wore simple but well-kept clothes, and there was something familiar about his posture. "Grandpa!" shouted Anna Claire. "There's someone at the gate." Joe Bennett appeared on the porch and, upon seeing the visitor, stood motionless for a few seconds. Then he began walking toward the gate with quick steps, an expression of disbelief on his face. "It can't be," he murmured. The man smiled and waved. "Hello, Joe. It's been a while, hasn't it?" "Anthony? Anthony Silver?" The two men embraced emotionally, while Anna Claire watched without understanding what was happening. "My God, Anthony! How many years has it been? 30, 40? 42 years, to be exact," replied the visitor, his eyes shining with emotion. Anna Claire approached. "Curious. Grandpa, who is this gentleman?" "Anna Claire, this is Anthony Silver, my best childhood friend. We grew up together here in Eagle Springs before he moved to the city." Anthony observed Anna Claire with paternal affection. "This must be the famous agronomist granddaughter. I saw all the interviews on television. You make me proud. But how did you know about our story?" asked Anna Claire. "The whole country knows your story, my dear, but I came here for another reason." Anthony looked toward Maverick, who maintained a respectful distance. "I came to get my horse." The silence that followed was deafening. Your horse?" Joe stammered. "Maverick was my horse, Joe. He escaped from my ranch in Billings almost 5 years ago. I searched everywhere, placed ads, offered rewards. I never imagined he had ended up here." Anna Claire felt her heart tighten. But, he's our guardian. He protected us. I know, my dear. I saw the video like everyone else. That's why it took me so long to come. I was torn between recovering my horse and leaving him where he had clearly found a family. Maverick, as if understanding the conversation, approached slowly. When he saw Anthony, he stopped and tilted his head to one side as if recognizing someone. "Hi, old friend," Anthony said softly. "I missed you too." To everyone's amazement, Maverick approached Anthony and nuzzled his hand. It was the first time the horse had shown affection for a stranger. "He remembers me," Anthony murmured, moved. "Mr. Silver," said Anna Claire, tears streaming down her face. "Are you going to take him away?" Anthony looked at the young woman, then at Joe, then at Maverick. His eyes were also moist. "You know what my first thought was when I saw the video of Maverick protecting you? It was, he found his true family." "What do you mean?" asked Joe. "Maverick was always special, Joe. Since he was a colt, he had this ability to sense people, to protect those who deserved protection. At my ranch, he did the same thing. Protected weaker horses, protected workers from aggressive animals, seemed to understand when someone needed help." Anna Claire wiped away her tears. "Then why did he run away?" "Because I was too old to give him the purpose he was seeking. At the ranch, he was just another beautiful horse. Here he found a mission to protect you." Anthony approached Maverick and whispered something in the animal's ear. The horse neighed softly and, surprisingly, walked over to Anna Claire and rested his head on her shoulder. "He's choosing," said Anthony with a smile. "And it seems he's chosen you. But Mr. Silver, he's your horse." "No, my dear. Horses like Maverick don't belong to anyone. They choose where they want to be. And he chose to be here, protecting this family, protecting this land." At that moment, several pickup trucks arrived at the ranch. It was Frank Anderson, accompanied by lawyers and court officers. "Mr. Joseph Bennett," shouted one of the officers, "we have a court order to halt all media activities related to the defamation. Have Mr. Frank Anderson." Anna Claire ran to the house to call Lucy, who had been staying in town to follow the developments. "What court order is this?" asked Lucy, examining the papers. "Injunction obtained by Mr. Vincent, claiming that the accusations are unfounded and are damaging my client's reputation," explained one of Frank's lawyers. "Unfounded?" Anna Claire couldn't contain herself. "We have all the evidence." "Evidence obtained illegally," retorted Frank, his arrogance returning now that he felt protected by the law. "And this media circus stops right now." It was at this moment that Anthony stepped forward. "Excuse me, may I see this court order?" "And you are?" Frank asked curtly. "Anthony Silver, retired judge of the Montana State Supreme Court." The atmosphere changed instantly. Frank paled upon hearing the title. Anthony examined the documents carefully, his reading glasses perched on his nose. "This injunction is irregular," he declared after a few minutes. "It was granted without hearing the opposing party, based on unproven allegations and by a judge who should have recused himself." "What do you mean, recused?" asked Frank's lawyer nervously. "Judge Richard Collins received campaign donations from Mr. Anderson's company in the last elections. It's in the Electoral Court records." Frank tried to argue, but Anthony wasn't finished. "Furthermore, I just recognized the signature on the environmental technical opinion you presented. It's from engineer Mark Peterson, who lost his professional license 2 years ago for document forgery. This is, Frank stammered. "It's the end of your charade," Anna Claire completed. The court officers, embarrassed, collected the papers. "Mr. Anderson, I suggest you leave before I file a report to the state attorney's office myself for use of forged documents," Anthony said with authority. Frank and his lawyers left hurriedly, definitively defeated. "Anthony," said Joe, still processing everything that had happened. "You're a judge." "I was. I retired last year and returned to Eagle Springs. I wanted to spend my last years in the land where I was born." Anna Claire hugged the elderly man. "You saved our family twice today. First by leaving Maverick with us, then by defending us in court. No, my dear, you saved yourselves, with courage, unity, and the help of a very special horse." As the sun set on that historic day, the family was gathered on the porch, watching Maverick grazing peacefully. Anthony had decided to move to a small house in town, but promised to visit the ranch often to see his former horse. "You know what I think?" said Anna Claire, embracing her grandfather. "What's that, honey?" "I think Maverick didn't arrive here by chance. I think he knew that one day we would need him." Joe smiled, observing the white horse that had become a symbol of resistance and protection. "Maybe you're right, Anna Claire. Maybe some things in life are indeed meant to happen." And so, as the stars began to shine in the sky over Eagle Springs, Clearwater Ranch remained where it had always been, in the hands of those who truly loved it, protected by a white horse, who had chosen to be the guardian of that family and that land forever. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like